Hey there, this is Coach Bill, Meditate School of Mindfulness, coming to you with a bit of a mindful few moments. Um, I want to talk today a little bit about this whole concept of higher consciousness and what that really means and what we can do with that. So, the term higher consciousness kind of seems to be connected to a level of spirituality, which it kind of is, but sometimes it's delivered in a way that says it's only available to those gurus, those people who really practice it, like religious practitioners or sages or monks or all these people who are deeply embedded in practices. But the truth is, higher consciousness is available to us all. And we experience it in so many times in our life, in our day, actually. But when we talk about the way it's described or the way it's talked about, it can seem kind of wishy washy or kind of woo woo to most everyday people. It can even seem unimportant, like it's a waste of time to talk about these things. It's gotten a bad rap somewhat. Um, some think you have to achieve a state of higher consciousness through chanting or uh, fasting or going to a retreat or even doing like magic mushrooms or something. And I'll go into that space of higher consciousness, but that's not true so much. So unfortunately, a lot of spiritual practitioners who are putting people on edge by making it seem unachievable. Like you have to check all these boxes and you have to identify yourself as this thing, and here you are. You're a being of higher consciousness. No, that ain't it at all. From my perspective, we all have that consciousness within us. We do. But the way it's described and talked about in so many ways, it can just be annoying. Why talk about it? Why am I even listening to this, right? But the concept of higher consciousness doesn't have anything really, doesn't even have to do with spirituality. It can, but it doesn't have to. I believe it has more to do with connecting to our own inner truth. The way I see it is it's more about connecting to the most authentic part of ourselves. And we all have that authenticity inside of us. We just have to practice connecting to it. The way I see it, most of our day we spend functioning in their lower conscious states, where we're pretty much only concerned about ourselves or the people right around us, only thinking about our survival, of getting through the day. What do I need to do to get through this day? How do I need to muscle through it, right? And we're kind of focused on defending ourselves in so many ways or thinking about how we're presenting ourselves to the world and how we're being received. In this state, we're not connected to the big picture. We're only seeing what we choose to see, the expectations and the judgments and the messages that are being thrown at us. So we tend to self-justify ourselves by making decisions based on me, focusing on the me, not the we. And there's a huge difference. In that lower space, in that kind of busy state, it's that place where we react to the most basic levels of response. When someone hurts us, we strike back. When we get caught, we blame others. We stick closely to this question of what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? Or, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? We want to go into a different space. We all have those moments that are beyond the lower state of consciousness. In those moments when we're not surrounded or caught up in the busyness and the immediate threats or the demands of our life or trying to fulfill somebody's expectations or our own expectations. Maybe it's when we just wake up in the morning and we open our eyes for just a fleeting moment. Maybe it's a moment when we're sitting in reflection watching a sunrise or looking at a beautiful space in nature or look in the eyes of someone we love. In those higher late spaces of consciousness, we can connect to so often, but we see they're so fleeting. But that's that place that neuroscientists call neocortex. It's that place where we connect to our true creativity, our imagination. It's a place that is beyond judgment and expectation. And it is a place, if we stay there long enough, we discover an inner peace and quiet that is always there. And in that space, what we do is we rise above the ego mind. We go past the survivor space, the place where we connect to that fight or flight response, and we breathe. It's a place where there's less bias and there's more openness, there's more acceptance, and we can see things from this higher perspective. When we do, we can call that really a we space, where we see we're beyond just the me, that we're together. There's a wholeness and a oneness in that. We start to let go of our pride, and we let go of the need to be right, the need to blame. We can release ourselves from having to have all the answers because we want to be in that place of discovery. And in this space, we can rise above our attitudes about our cravings. We can even rise above our addictions and see that we can change. We can see life more open and be more imaginative. And we start to envision a life from this higher plane, this higher perspective, this higher consciousness. And in this space, we can truly change. We can change our beliefs, and we can especially change the way we look at others. When we connect to that place over and over again, rather than criticize or blame, we're free to see people for who they are. We can disengage from having to be reactionary, and we can look at somebody who might have hurt us, or somebody who has a different belief system from us, and we can see that they're being driven by their own misconceptions or for their own preservation. They feel like they need to go in that narcissistic space where they have to fight. As we start connecting more and more to that higher level of consciousness, that higher mind space, we can see when people are reacting or moving through their life from that primitive lower mind space. We can see when they're acting from that ego and see that it's all about survival or justification or blame or the need to feel they have power over someone. We can see that, and it takes the pressure off. In that higher space, we can go up, and we can see their viciousness or their are symptoms of the hurt and the insecurity about what they've been carrying within themselves. We can see that it's not some deep-seated evil, that it is just a space of being for them. When we go high, we can see them for who they are, and we can start to feel a bit of compassion for them. And then, of course, we need to do all that we can do to protect ourselves from them and the people that we love from them without falling into that dark space of anger and hatred. It's liberating. In this space, we can perceive the appropriate response is not fear or cynicism or aggression. The appropriate response is to come at it from a place of love. Love. Not a passionate or even friendly kind of love, but a love where we can see them, see their suffering, see their struggles, where we can see them for who they are. As we practice connecting to that higher state of consciousness, we can see when we're faced with a world that seems filled with suffering and divisiveness, filled with people lashing out against others, we can tap into the tenderness. We can focus on the beauty and the vulnerability of the world and know the appropriate and most fitting response to our angry world is sympathy and kindness. And we can hold people in that space. As we practice connecting to this higher state of being, practicing rising above the noise, we can reach it more and more quickly. The more we go there, the more we can get there. The more we practice reaching it, the more it becomes more of a normal state of being. So suddenly, we start noticing this color of the sky. We start noticing the sun and the stars and the moon. And suddenly we're more light than darkness, more love than hate. Suddenly, we can see those who are trying to trap us in their web of division and fear and say no. Because we have the power to turn it off. We can rise above it. from this higher perspective, we can take a step back and we can let go of the need to have this unachievable stimulation that we get from listening to people rant and rave or put their opinion out there. We can let go of the need to have something else to make us happy when we can see that the happiness is already here. We can see that our grievances aren't so overpowering and that the darkness can be replaced by the light. When others encounter us, when we embrace that light, when we're connected to that higher state, they can feel the energy of it. They can notice how transformational it is. And even though they might not know what it is that they're experiencing, what they're experiencing is the fact that they're being touched by the power of love. A love that's unconditional. A love that is healing. And it's there. We all have it within ourselves. But so often it's so fleeting that we don't pay attention to it. So often it moves so quickly past us that we don't feel that true peacefulness. In reality, we can't expect ourselves to move through life like that all the time because we're not always in that relaxed and safe space. We need to be in that lower space in order to protect ourselves when we're out in the world. We can't expect to always moving from that place because it is a space of vulnerability. But we can and we should choose to be there more often than not, especially when we're in our home, when we're in our safe space, when we're in our own spaces. We should pay attention to what we're doing. We should pay attention to what we are doing and realize that everything we do makes a difference. When we turn on the television at our home in our safe space, what are we inviting in? What are we tuning into? Are we watching the news and listening to all those speaking from that lower state of being? Are we exposing ourselves to the programs that tap into our most basic of human responses, the anger and the fear and the pain? Or are we connecting to those things that lift us up? Are we connecting to those things that help us rise above? Our highest consciousness raises us up out of that ego space. It takes us up above that primitive mind space, but we can so easily be pulled back down so quickly by listening to something that brings us back into that place of fear or anger or doubt. It's all about paying attention. What am I inviting into my space? What am I allowing to come in to my space? So with practice, we can make those fleeting higher consciousness moments more readily available to us. With practice, we can see that the habitual mind wants to go back to that basic place, but we have the ability to change it. We can stop watching the news. We can stop paying attention to the things that pull us back down. We can start receiving the messages that make us feel whole instead of making us feel like there's something missing. With practice, we start connecting more and more to that beautiful space of creativity, that space that we all have within ourselves. We can practice living our lives more and more in that beautiful space, living in that space of equanimity, that place where we've risen above the noise, where we watch the world and we decide what it is we're going to participate in or not. We decide how we're going to perceive someone else's actions instead of allowing them to take control of us. We decide what we're allowing into our space. It takes practice. But in order to achieve this peacefulness, in order to live a more fulfilled life, in order to be more authentic and real, we need to practice. Practice presence. Practice being in that higher space. Practice not letting things in that you don't want to. That's what I'm talking about. So, that's my message for the day. Do with it what you will. I'm Coach Bill, and I wish you the best.